Welcome to the Full Court Trap Podcast, episode 1. And today we got my brother Ryan on the show. How are you doing, my man?
Man, we're just vibing. Yesterday, I got tickets for the Ravens playoff game next week. I'm just super excited. Glad to have a job so I can pay for things like that. But we're on cloud nine, 13-4, baby. Let's go.
That always helps, man. And you didn't tell me you had tickets to the Ravens game. I knew that you were going to the Super Bowl, which is exciting,
Yes,
but I did
yes,
not know about the Ravens playoff game. So that's fun, man. And you're gonna enjoy yourself. I mean, if it's against Cleveland, it might be a crazy game, but we'll
yeah.
see.
I don't know.
But yeah, so if you guys don't know, me and Ryan, we used to do a show together called The Full Court Trap on U Stadium's YouTube channel, and that's really what started me, on this path, starting YouTube and everything. So want to thank my man over here for that because that was an opportunity that he brought to me. So and I'm just excited, man. We've always had it's always been a great time, chopping it up with you and talking some sports. So to start this week, I wanted to start by talking about the 2-7 matchup in the AFC, the Bills versus your favorite team, the Pittsburgh
Vomit.
Steelers. How are you feeling about this matchup?
First of all, shout out to Vegas, bro. Shout out to all the books out there, FanDuel, DraftKings, because Buffalo -10 is the king of all locks. What are we doing here? Pittsburgh stinks. I know they won 10 games. I get it. They were below 500 outside of the AFC North. And if you remember the AFC North, they played not Lamar Jackson once. Granted, they did beat Lamar, but that was
That
a
is true.
historically bad receiving performance there. They
Some
beat Jake Browning
crazy finish
twice.
too.
Congratulations, you beat Jake Browning twice. And you beat, I guess you lost to DTR, and you beat Deshaun Watson because you had two 70-yard touchdowns. So
That game
the
was crazy.
Steelers, exactly. The Steelers are great in the division, 5-1 in the division, not great outside of the division. Buffalo -10 is a lock, absolute lock. Josh Allen feasts in these 2-7 matchups. If you move his career 5 years forward, would be like 1-3 in the playoffs because he's gotten 2 wins now in these 2-7 games. He beat the Colts in 2020 and beat the Dolphins last year. Skylar Thompson in a playoff game, yeah, we all remember that fondly.
And they almost lost to that though.
This is true. They almost lost, but he gets to pad his stats against a crummy team. He beat your crummy team in the 2021 playoffs, like Mac Jones led team.
Official end of the Patriots, I call that game. That was a rough one.
Are you sure it wasn't losing to the Jets the other day?
Hey, I wanted that one to happen. So I understand your point. I'm giving Pittsburgh a chance in this game, though. I think that the last few weeks, ever since Mason Rudolph took over, they've looked a lot better offensively than they have in years. They had a nice performance against the Bengals, 34 points, I believe, right?
Yeah, over 30 points.
30 against the Seahawks. And then, the Ravens game was an AFC North game. I mean, we know how those games go. It's been the same games the Ravens and Steelers have played for the last 15 years. It's always going to be like a 17-10 ugly football game that's decided towards the end. It doesn't matter if it's Lamar Jackson and prime Ben Roethlisberger getting back out there. It doesn't matter if it's Pickett versus Huntley. So I'm not saying the Steelers are going to win this game. I don't think that would be reasonable, but I am giving them a chance. I don't believe that the line is a lock. But I think it all depends on how the game starts. I think the Steelers can win this if they're playing from ahead. If they go behind early, it's a blowout. So that's how I feel. We'll see. Could be, you could be completely right. They go down 7 early, and all of a sudden it's a 35-point game like that Chiefs game a couple years ago. So we'll see. But then on to the 3-6 matchup, we got Kansas City, Miami in the 0-degree, I think -17 with wind, I believe.
You forgot to mention it's on Peacock. That's the most important thing here. Yes. We all have to pay to watch this atrocity of a football game.
We got Patrick Mahomes on Peacock. That was not something I expected. I expected the Buccaneers Eagles game to be on there.
I was expecting Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's fair.
Pittsburgh Buffalo.
Yeah. So who do you think wins this one? What are you feeling on this one?
I get the feel. First off, shout out to all the Swifties out there. Go follow Jake on all platforms.
All right, man.
You're gonna have 10 million followers tomorrow, so
This is
Be
true.
grateful. I'm leaning Kansas City. Miami's in this tailspin. They're losing guys defensively left and right. They lose Jalen Phillips earlier in the season. They lose Bradley Chubb when they were down 30 to Baltimore. They lose Andrew Van Ginkel last week. Jalen Waddle should be back. He was questionable for Week 18, didn't end up playing. Now in a do-or-die situation, I think he has to play. But I think you have some worries about the Miami defense. You obviously have
Yeah.
worries about the Kansas City offense. They haven't been able to move the football at times this year, but it's Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. We're not going to overthink it. The line's 4. I think that's, I don't love it. They could win by 3, and I would get hosed on like a back door. I'm looking at the under here. I think both of these teams will want to run the football. Kansas City has been able to run the football at times with Pacheco. Miami, Devon Achane has been unbelievable this year. They don't give him enough run. This is one of the cases that a team should run the ball more, even
Yep.
with in theory, elite passing offense you have with Tua and co. But I think both teams should run the ball. Both teams should try to grind this out and know that they have a brighter matchup next week, whether that's in Baltimore, that's scary potentially for Miami, or if it's in Buffalo potentially for Kansas City. Yeah, those are scary matchups, but you want to live to fight another day. So give me Kansas City. I like the under in this game, under 44.5.
So yeah, I think Kansas City's a safe pick in this game, right? We've seen them win 2 Super Bowls in what, the last 4 playoffs? Yeah, 4. Yeah, that'll be 4. Yeah.
Yep.
So and Mahomes, great playoff quarterback, obviously. But with it being a cold weather game, I know Miami, theoretically they're Miami. They shouldn't be a good cold weather team. But exactly what you said is the reason why I'm picking Miami. They're going to have to run the ball with the way the weather is. They're not going to have a choice. It's not necessarily going to be a type of game where you see like 3 passes, but you're not going to be able to pass the ball every play. And I think Miami having to run the ball is actually going to bring the best out of their offense that we've seen in a while. I think there's a chance that this game could be higher scoring than people are expecting because these teams have to run the ball, because both passing offenses have struggled at times recently. Um, and I think Miami, if it gets into a run it, like slug it out, running type of game, I think Miami has a very good chance to win this game. I'm taking Miami. I'm not sure full like how confident I am in that just because it is the Chiefs, but
Mm-hmm.
also the Chiefs have not had a performance this year. I've been like, wow, this team's the dominant team. Like even we saw last year, plenty of performances where they were just destroying teams, even without Hill. I mean, I think a little bit of it is the drama around the team with the Travis Kelsey, Taylor Swift stuff, but I don't know, just something about that team is very off this year. I know that people are very quick to point out how off the Dolphins have been recently, and there is truth to that. I think if Miami has going to Baltimore, they'll get destroyed. I even think if this game was in Kansas City in a normal weather day, I'd probably pick Kansas City. But I think in the cold, you got to run the ball a lot. I think Miami has a very good shot to win this game.
Yeah, I think Miami can win. I think it's different if they will win. Uh, Kansas City's getting healthier defensively. Miami just is deteriorating
Yeah,
defensively. Ramsey's going to play in this game. I do not believe he played in the first matchup when they played in Munich. Um, but Chris Jones hyped up. He got his incentive sack last week. You have, to me, an All-Pro caliber corner: Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed on the back end for Kansas City. Nick Bolton should be healthy for this one. I like
their
the pieces.
linebackers are it's tough with their linebackers right now for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Kansas City, although this could be a Devon Achane game. I'm
Mm-hmm.
waiting again. He was on my fantasy team, my dynasty team, and just waiting for that 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, because that guy is a superstar.
He's insane.
I don't say that lightly, but I don't know. If he's given the chance, I think Miami can be very successful, but I do think Miami sometimes plays with this arrogance of, we have Tua, we have Mike McDaniel, we have Tyreek Hill, we have Jalen Waddle. We will beat you through the air, even if that's not always the best option.
I think a lot of times this season too, Miami has been the definition of good but not good enough. Like that's what they've really felt like. Like in recent weeks, I think the most concerning thing about that Baltimore game to me was I didn't think Miami played a bad game. Like I thought Miami played how Miami always plays.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Baltimore was just better. And that was the most concerning thing. It wasn't like Miami turned the ball over a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
until the
was
second half.
yeah.
Two had 2 interceptions, the overthrow on to Geno Stone, and just an insane play by Roquan with the one-handed
Yeah.
interception.
But still, in like a 56-19 game, you're thinking like, 5 interceptions maybe. It didn't feel like
Yeah. You're
anything
thinking pick
crazy happened in
six,
that game. Yeah,
strip
it didn't feel
sack.
like yeah, so that's the most concerning thing for Miami to me. I think Baltimore is a really bad matchup for them. Though we have seen teams like the Jets in 2010, go to New England, lose what was it, 45-3, and then come back, win. But I just think, I think Miami maxes out here at the at this game against Kansas City, but I do think they pull it out in the end.
Sure.
So we'll see on that one. Then we got, I think, the game I'm most excited for this weekend: the Houston Texans versus the Cleveland Browns. Two teams barely anybody expected to be here before the season started. How are you feeling about this one?
This is just total chaos. Of course, these teams played a few weeks ago, but I'm not going to put too much stock into that. It was not a CJ Stroud game. It was the Davis Mills slash Case Keenum trifecta. Like, what are we doing here?
In
Cleveland blew them
2023,
out.
by the way.
Yeah. Oh, Case Keenum in this economy. What are we doing? But CJ Stroud, I think you are just going to bring in a higher level of quarterback play. I will say that Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, the guys on the interior, they should have a good day, and I will trust Cleveland's defense to pull it out. One thing to note with Cleveland is, as good as they've been defensively, they have a propensity to allow the big play. They allowed the big touchdown to Pittsburgh. They really like allowing 50-yard touchdowns for some reason. Now, that's a fine characteristic if your team sucks, but when your team is really good, those 50-yard touchdowns, 70-yard touchdowns, those are backbreakers. And that's the case of, like, if you turn it around and look at Cleveland's offense, you love the explosiveness with Joe Flacco. You love him pushing the ball down the field to Amari Cooper and co. You love the David Njoku, insane runs on screens. But you flip that to the defense, and that's frustrating when Jim Schwartz calls the great play and you have all these great players and you have a coverage bust or you miss a tackle, because Cleveland's not a great tackling team. They allow some yak, they allow some big plays. And Nico Collins went nuts against Indianapolis. That could be an X factor here of Houston might get 270-yard touchdowns or 250-yard touchdowns or a 3rd and 14 bust that instead of a punt, you get better field position, you can kick a field goal, turn those zeros into threes and those threes into sevens. Although I will say I'm leaning Cleveland. I'll lean Cleveland -2.5. That's one of my bets of the week. And I think we're going to get a Joe Flacco return to Baltimore here next week.
Man, I think that would be game of the year, man. I'm getting excited just thinking about that one. Yeah, I'm going Cleveland as well. I think, Cleveland's defense has been real, like, if you look at the numbers, just passing yards, I mean, I think they've
Mm-hmm.
allowed, before last week, I don't know how last week factored into this because obviously they weren't playing everybody, but up until last week, they're averaging, I think, 158 passing yards allowed per week in 2023. Like, that's insane. Like, that sounds
Mm-hmm.
like 2005 numbers?
Right.
So I think that this is a different type of defense than Stroud's seen. I will say I think that this is a much better matchup than we would have gotten if Jacksonville had won.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit upset because I was going to go to that game if Jacksonville had won, and I was expecting Jacksonville to win. But Houston has been playing good football in recent memory, or pretty much all year. The offense has been really nice. The defense has been better than a lot of people expected, right? And Stroud. I think Stroud's already. I think he had a top 5 season of quarterbacks this year. I think it was incredible. Best rookie we've seen maybe since Andrew Luck. At least since Deshaun.
Herbert was pretty good in 2020.
He was very good, but yeah, I don't know. Either way, like he's up there with those
Mm-hmm.
special rookie quarterbacks. And so I'm taking Cleveland this game. I will say that if Stroud manages to pull this out, it like it's gonna be it's one of the craziest rookie quarterback seasons we've ever seen. I mean, if he managed to pull it out against this defense, and not to mention Joe Flacco's been rolling recently, it's gonna say a lot about that Texans defense, how they're able to defend this Brown offense that looks so good in recent weeks. Joe Flacco, I mean, I know a lot of people are waiting for him to have that game where it's just a disaster, but at the end of the day, he is a playoff vet. He knows how to play in these situations. He's able to play his gunslinging mentality at this quarterback position because they just need somebody who's going to get the ball down the field. They have the weapons. They like to play fast. I think the issue with Watson was everything was so short. Everything was felt like in a phone booth almost. Same thing with the other guys, just weren't very good. I think with Flacco, it allows them to play, you know, get upfield. They're gonna make mistakes, but they're also going to make big plays. I think that's what they need with this defense that can hold on against against those turnovers, especially when it's like arm pumps and stuff. So I'm taking Cleveland. I think this will be a great game. I don't even know if I'd go if I was betting if I take the -2.5. I think this could be a 1 point game type of game. Um, but ultimately, I think Cleveland will pull it out.
Yeah, no,
So
this is in Houston, so you have the, in theory, good kicking environment. Dustin Hopkins for Cleveland's had a good year. I know
mm-hmm.
Cleveland has the bugaboo with kickers at times, like Minnesota, like the Chargers, but he's been really good this season. So if it does come down to a last-second field goal, I would trust Cleveland in that situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, so now we're moving on to NFC, where the first matchup is Cowboys versus Packers. Rematch of something we've seen a couple times before. Different quarterback um in Green Bay and in Dallas, as opposed to that infamous 2015 game, which I'm sure we all remember. But what's your thoughts on this game? How are you feeling?
Okay, first off, Green Bay's found their guy. Jordan Love was nails after about week 4. Right, the
Yeah,
first few weeks he was horrible in the first half,
look,
awesome in the second half. Just look at
average
the
as
Saints
hell.
game.
We had that Saints game where he came back from 17-0, but he
Mm-hmm.
looked very, very average. It didn't look like the guy that Green Bay had waited all these years for. But
Yep,
now
and
it's looking like they found their successor. They found their Favre, they found
mhm.
their Rodgers, they found whatever.
Yeah, like the last month or so, he's just been playing loose. He's been playing with a whole lot of swagger. Those young receivers, the Packers are one of the youngest playoff teams in the last 50 years. And I think the average age of the offense is like 23. You get Luke Musgrave back. You might get Christian Watson back for this game. And I will take Dallas. The 7.5 is not a line I want to bet be on either side of, because I think there's a reasonable chance Green Bay wins the game. Or
Interesting.
is can win the game in the last minutes, or Dallas could just mollywop them. Dallas has been unstoppable at home,
Yeah.
so I think if you're wanting to bet on this, either you can take Dallas in a teaser and move that line to either half a point or 1.5, depending on if it's a 6 or 7 point teaser, or you can try it with Green Bay out to 13.5, 14.5. I wouldn't bet it at 7.5 though.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, like what you said, Dallas has been a dominant home team all year. I think Jordan Love is going to get his, but I think he's going to have to play a perfect football game for them to win. I think
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay has the 28th ranked defense, I believe.
It's
So
bad.
that defense
Joe
is not
Barry,
good.
not
I
good.
think I saw it during the which game was it? I think it was during the Lions game. They were showing the home and away splits for the Cowboys. They're averaging like 40 points a game at home this year, which is just unbelievable, really.
Mm-hmm.
Dak's having the best season of his career, obviously. Yeah, so I'm gonna take the Cowboys. I'm not counting out the Packers completely because they have played really good football recently. Jordan Love's been awesome. Like you said, that receiving core is getting better and better each week. Um, so you still have Aaron Jones have a pretty good season. So yeah, I'll take Dallas. I do think this could be a close game. I do think, like you said, could be a Dallas blowout. Uh, but yeah, I like you said, I probably wouldn't go either way on the line just because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you don't know.
Yeah,
Just
it's
don't know.
like one of those that Green Bay could be down 14 late and score a touchdown to make it 7. Um, I don't know. I like Jordan Love in this spot. Um, like just fundamentally, I like that idea, but I don't like Joe Barry in this spot, and that gives me reservations on picking the Packers to win outright. And a 7 seed has never beaten a 2 seed. Granted, we've
That's
only had
crazy.
3 years of this, but 0 and
Yeah,
6 so
still six
far.
games. Yeah,
Yeah, 0 and 6 so far. I think Pittsburgh's cooked, and I think this will be that 0 and 8 mark.
yeah. I definitely can see that one. But then we got wait, sorry, we went Cowboys. The other game is Lions Rams. This is actually
This is
one that I'm
narrative bowl right here.
extremely yeah. This is who won the trade, right? Obviously, the Rams have won the Super Bowl, but this decides who actually won the trade.
Yes.
Yeah, we got Jared Goff, the afterthought of that trade, getting a home game against Matthew Stafford's Rams, which not to give myself too much credit, but I did say the Lions will win the division and the Rams will make the playoffs before the season. So I'm feeling pretty good about that one. As we go forward, I'll tell you guys another pick that I'm very happy I made before the season. But yeah, I think this is a complete toss up. How are you feeling about this game?
This is just the NFL scriptwriters cooked with this one, man. Uh, I I like the Rams in this spot, especially with the number. I think it's 3.5 right now. I think you have the better quarterback. The better quarterback is getting points here. It's in a dome, so you don't have to worry about like inclement weather or anything. Um, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua, Tyler Higbee, Kyron Williams has been awesome. He missed a third of the season, but is
He's Their
among the top
numbers with
three
him
in
versus
rushing
without
yards.
him is crazy. Their offense with and without him, it's a different team.
Like I think the Rams, if you take out when they had to play with Brett Rippon, the second half against Dallas and the full game against Green Bay, they might be the best offense in football
That's
when
crazy.
their four Avengers are there. The offensive line's held up enough, and I'm not super worried about Detroit's pass rush in this game. Aiden Hutchinson's a good player, but I think Rob Havenstein's going to have him in a box. Secondary for Detroit, not very good outside of my guy Brian Branch. I'm leaning Rams. I do have my hesitations because this is a historically bad special teams unit, similar to that 2021 Packers team that blew the game against San Francisco.
Or our
That
favorite 2011 Chargers, right?
oh my 2010 Chargers.
2010,
Oh
my bad,
man,
my bad.
it's just
Uh,
disastrous.
yeah.
Like I implore all of your listeners, if you have a PFF subscription, go on their field goal kicking grades, and you go to the bottom, and it's Chad Ryland because the Patriots suck. And then the two guys ahead of Chad Ryland are both Rams kickers, Haversick and Brett Maher. They have been disastrous kicking the field goals. They've been disastrous kicking extra points. They've been disastrous covering punts. Hashtag Tylen Wallace. They can't cover kicks. They can't return kicks. They can't return punts. They are fundamentally bad at 1/3 of the game.
That's
The
crazy.
defense is
And
fine. I like obviously Aaron Donald. I think he's an All-Pro this year. Kobe Turner, great rookie. Should maybe win Defensive Rookie of the Year. The linebackers, the corners, they're all young. They all like kind of play together. It's a lot is based on Aaron Donald there, but I think I have the offensive advantage with LA. I have the defensive advantage with LA. I have the coaching advantage with LA. But special teams, it's so catastrophic they could go full Chargers.
and to talk about your Chad Ryland point, I think every Patriots fan should love Chad Ryland. He is the greatest tank kicker of all time. Lost us that Giants game, had many kicks throughout the season that turned the game. I think if you're looking for the perfect tank kicker, Chad Ryland is your man. The
He did
funniest
beat the
Chad
Broncos though.
He did. That was a very bad thing for the tank. But he the funniest thing I saw this season, I think it was the first Jets Patriots game, right? So it was like 3-3 or something. Chad Ryland had made like a 30-yarder, and Tony Romo's announced the game, and he goes up there, and Tony Romo's just like singing his praises. He misses like a 43-yarder, I think, and Tony Romo's like, I don't care if you missed that kick, man. I love what I've seen from this kid today. It's like it's like, dude, he made one 30-yard kick and missed the 43-yard.
Oh
That
man,
had Me and my brothers were like dying laughing at that for like 10 minutes after it happened.
gotta
But
love
yeah,
kickers, man.
oh yeah. So for me in this game, so obviously it's the best of both worlds for both teams. What is it? 3 years now since that trade, and we get this matchup, or 2.5 years, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm picking the Lions. I think they're gonna have what is it,
Ford Field.
Ford Field rocking. It's their first home playoff game in what, 25, 30 years,
I
something
think
like
it's since
that.
1993.
30 years or 31 years. Wow. So yeah, so that's going to be, those Lions fans, I've been there before. Those Lions fans are loyal they're to the grave Lions fans. At this point, I've been a Lions fan since 1993. It is to the, because like, I mean, if you've stuck with them for this long, obviously. And I do think the Lions are getting a little underrated here. I think the Lions, outside of, the San Franciscos, the Baltimores, the Clevelands, have been as consistent as anybody this year. I think they've, the offense has proven to be really good. The defense at times has been a little shaky, but I feel like every team in this playoff is a little flawed. Even San Francisco, which we'll get to. Um, Baltimore is probably the closest to perfect, but I think the Lions. I think the Lions. I don't know. I just feel like they pull this one out. I think it's a toss up. I think both teams do some things really well. Don't do some things really poorly. Both are exciting football teams to watch. I think it's gonna be an awesome game. I think it could be similar to that Cowboys Lions game we saw a couple weeks ago. Where it's just madness at the end and throughout the game. So I'm picking the Lions. I would not bet any line here or anything because I think this is going to come down to the last minutes. Um, and yeah, so I think the Lions, or I'll save that for the bracket, but I feel good about the Lions' chances here. So then
Fair
we got
enough.
the 4-5 matchup. We got Tampa Bay Philly. Something probably nobody expected this to be. What is a 3-point line?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That'd be two and
three
a
or
half.
four. Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think the money's probably going all in on Tampa right now. If I'd had to guess, how do you feel about this one?
Man, this is it's sort of the NFC equivalent to the Chiefs Dolphins game. Both of these
Mm-hmm.
teams are backing into the playoffs. The Eagles have been much covered. They were 10-1. Now they're backing into the playoffs. Jalen Hurts is hurt. AJ Brown is hurt. The defense is horrendous. But that doesn't mean the Bucks are this good team. We have to keep in mind that the Bucks are fundamentally flawed here. Baker Mayfield. I like Baker. Let Bake cook. Baker touchdown maker, my guy. But this is a tough ask. I think Tampa Bay's interior is going to be shredded by Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis and those guys. And I don't think Tampa wins this game. To me, the path for Tampa to win this game is Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and company go bananas against the Slays, the Bradburys of the world. That to me is the only path. I don't think Tampa can run the ball as good as Rashad White has been. I think a lot of that's the receiving game, a lot of that's the quick game when you're leading. But this Tampa team has looked pretty bad for 7 of the last 8 quarters. They had one nice quarter against New Orleans, but they looked pretty horrible against Carolina. That's a game they probably should have lost. Antoine Winfield made a huge play to force a fumble out of the end zone. You had a negated penalty that took another touchdown off for Carolina. I think Tampa Bay is just not a very good football team. I think if you had a bracket with the Saints, Falcons, and Bucks, I think the Bucks are probably the worst of the 3. But the Falcons have disastrous quarterback play. The Saints got themselves into a pretty big hole with random the Packers loss. Why
That
did
was
you lose the
terrible.
Packers game? What are we doing here? The first time they played Tampa, they got blown out. I don't think the Bucks are playing particularly well. Obviously, the Eagles aren't, but I kind of like the Eagles here. I think this is probably the lowest value you're going to get on the Eagles. So give me the Eagles minus 2.5.
So yeah, so I think the Eagles are probably the better football team, but they have been playing hard. I mean, just atrocious football
Just
recently. The Bucks defense is really good, really really good in my opinion. And I think Hurts looks like a broken quarterback to me. Like I'm a Hurts fan, and I'm saying that I think Hurts looks like a broken quarterback. I don't think like I'm not counting the Eagles out completely, but I will say, you know, from how I talk about football and stuff, you know how I feel about division matchups. I don't like to put too much stock into those. I think the Saints game is a tough game. I think the Panthers game was one of those games. Yeah, they didn't look good, but at the end of the day, it was you get the lead, you do what you have to do to retain that lead. Baker didn't look good, but it is what it is. The
Baker's also
last
banged up right now.
what?
Baker's also hurt right now.
Yeah, he is. So the thing is, before those 2 games, the last like 3 or 4 weeks before that, they were playing awesome offensively. And obviously the last 2 weeks they haven't. I don't know. I just feel like this Eagles team looks like they have no pulse right now. Like it feels like they just feel like they're done. And I think that Tampa's defense is going to get into Hurts' head. I don't know if their offense is going to be great. If their offense does show up, I think the Bucks win this pretty handily. If their offense doesn't show up, this game go either way. But I'm taking the Bucks. I think, like I said, the Eagles just look like a broken football team. If you ask me, random week 5 of the regular season when obviously the Eagles did beat them, I think 25-11, like week 6 or
Mhm.
7.
Yeah, I think it was week 3 because the Bucks were undefeated.
Yeah. So yeah, right. They both started 3-0, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Bucks. I think neither of these teams are really doing anything outside of this
Mhm.
matchup regardless. I will say I think if the Eagles did win and they figured some stuff out, they probably have a better chance of doing stuff down the road because they have a lot more talent than the Bucks.
Mhm.
But Eagles just feel like a broken football team to me. Bucks feel like that team that's happy to be here and is really gonna be pumped to play. So yeah, give me the Bucks. But yeah, we'll see. So moving on to our brackets. So we had a couple different picks. So I'm trying to think. Miami Chiefs we had differently,
Yep.
and
You took Detroit, you took
Detroit you took LA.
Miami, and you took Tampa.
Right, right. So yeah. So you want to run through your divisional round picks first, and
Sure.
I'll run through mine.
Sure. So we have Cleveland traveling to Baltimore, the return of Joe Flacco, and then the other matchup we have the inverse fixture of what we usually have: Chiefs at Bills. I'll
Yes,
tackle Chiefs at Bills first. Man, Patrick Mahomes has never played a road playoff game. Believe it or
that is
not, this
crazy.
would be his first, and it's tough to pick against Kansas City. I know the offense has had its struggles, but they generally are competent against Josh Allen. They do enough to win in these games. I think the Chiefs have the better quarterback. The Chiefs have the better coach. The Chiefs have the better defense. And I think they have the better running game too in this potentially in this spot. Now, if you include Allen in the run game, it gets a little hazy. Um,
That
but
dude's a beast.
yeah, I'll take the Chiefs and Browns Ravens. Man, that's like narrative ball. That might even be greater than like the Stafford Goff thing because Flacco won a Super Bowl for the Baltimore Ravens. Now he comes in. This would be if he were to win this game, it would be his 10th career non-home playoff win.
Insane.
So he has 7 road games so far, and the Super Bowl, of course. The Texas game would be number 9 total. Uh,
Correct me
they've
if I'm
played
wrong, but
twice.
I think the Patriots, the Ray Rice game against the Patriots was the first one.
No, he had 2 as a rookie. They beat Miami like 27-3 the Castle year, and then they beat
Okay.
number 1 seed Tennessee. And then
Right, right.
then
Okay.
2009 was the third one. Flacco was horrible in that game. People
Yeah.
forget. Just going to throw this out there before we trash Lamar in the playoffs. If you sort by passer rating, first 4 seasons, minimum of 100 pass attempts in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson is like a 68 passer rating. Flacco's a 70. Flacco wasn't very good in those playoffs. He was the game they won in Foxborough, 4 for 10, 30 yards,
I remember
pick,
that, yeah.
disaster.
First Patriots game I ever really cared about.
Oof, not a good one to start on.
Nah.
Browns Ravens. I know the Ravens have had this bugaboo in the playoffs, but I think this is a spot where Baltimore has played a different brand of football than they have in the past. And I think this is a team that, if they trail, I think they can move the football. They have proven they can move the ball on the Browns. They scored 28 points the first time. Now, part of that's a DTR assist, a couple short fields. And then the second time, they scored 24 offensive points. They had the pick 6 by Hamilton. That's a great play. The pick 6 on the other side is a little fluky because it's off a helmet and whatnot. I'm going to take Baltimore in the game. Don't want to touch the spread, just Baltimore money line. So
Yeah, we don't have a spread, so
yeah,
you're good.
thankfully. So I'd go Baltimore money line, Chiefs money line. Do you want me to go NFC as well, or just AFC?
Let's just start in the AFC.
Sure.
So I'm good. So my second round in the AFC would be Baltimore, Miami, and Buffalo, Cleveland.
Yep.
So starting off with Baltimore, Miami. Now I do think it's a little dangerous sometimes to base off of games that just happened. Like we had the Patriots Bills game, the second or first full season I watched football. The Patriots beat the Jets 45-3. I think week 14. Come back in the playoffs. Everyone's expecting the Patriots to beat the Jets handily. Jets end up beating them. But the thing is, I feel like in the playoffs, you need to have some sort of, you play a team like Baltimore, you have some sort of toughness, some sort of, just like it can't just be all, we're just gonna throw the ball down the field the whole game and everything. Ultimately, assuming the weather's not 0 degrees in Baltimore, I think Baltimore's just a better football team. We were talking about this before the show, but I think the thing is about that Baltimore Miami game that really stuck out to me. It wasn't like Baltimore did anything crazy out of their ordinary. It wasn't like Miami did anything out of the ordinary. It did have 2 turnovers in the second half, I believe, from Tua, but it wasn't like anything crazy happened. Tua's had games with 2 turnovers before. It just looked like a pretty normal Baltimore Miami game that, Baltimore's up 56-19 because they're just a better team. And I think that's the way it'll go again. I don't expect Miami to come close. I think Baltimore is going to have a chip on their shoulder throughout this whole playoffs. Lamar Jackson's heard the talk. He's made that pretty clear on Twitter before that he has heard the talk, and I think Lamar's got something to prove these playoffs. I said it before the season. I'll hold my pick for the end, but I was very high on Baltimore before the season, and I have no reason. Yes, and I have no reason not to be high on them right here. So I'm taking Baltimore. Now, Buffalo-Cleveland is a very interesting game because it feels like similar but different styles to an extent, right? Like, got both quarterbacks with big arms, very much at different points of their careers, obviously. Joe Flacco, everyone thought his career was over 5-6 weeks ago, whatever. Josh Allen's supposed to be in his prime, in his prime, I'd say. The defense, I think Cleveland's defense is definitely better, but Buffalo's got a pretty solid defense as well. But listen, man, this Cleveland team, I don't know what to say about it. There's something special to them. I think they're going to force the turnovers on Josh Allen. They've done a great job with that all season. Like you said, they have allowed the big plays, but I think against Buffalo, anybody's going to allow a couple big plays. And I think Cleveland will make him pay for those stupid decisions Josh Allen makes, which have been on full display all season. If there were a spread on this game, I would not go any direction because this game it would be a crazy game. But I do think we get that crazy Baltimore-Cleveland matchup that I think everyone wants to see in the AFC Championship. A side note, just because I want to put this idea out there, right? I know you're going to hate this, but I'm saying it anyway.
Oh, boy.
So with Pittsburgh, right? So I know Pittsburgh, in theory, should have no chance against Buffalo. But if Pittsburgh were to beat Buffalo, all of a sudden it becomes an AFC North route to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that idea out there. I'm not even going to say anything more. I'm just throwing that idea out there. This playoff situation might be the best setup that, for a mediocre Pittsburgh team ever. So I'm just throwing it out there. But
yeah, I could see it. Also, that would be a great way to exercise your demons in the playoffs if you're Baltimore. If you got Pittsburgh, then Joe Flacco, then you played
San Fran.
Probably San Fran, and that would be kind of poetic because they beat them the last time in the Super Bowl. I don't know if there's any other. I would want to see Baltimore Rams again. That game was awesome a few weeks ago.
That was a great game.
But if you're trying to exercise the most playoff demons, I think your path is probably Pittsburgh, Joe Flacco, and then probably the 1 seed in the other conference. So
yeah. All right, so I got a Baltimore Cleveland AFC Championship. You got Baltimore KC, I believe.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to the NFC. I got San Fran against Tampa, and I got Dallas against Detroit, and you got.
I have San Francisco, LA, and Philly, Dallas again.
So 2 in-division matchups. Anything can happen in those matchups, as we know. So, how are you feeling? What do you think?
Okay, let's start in Santa Clara. Rams at Niners. These teams played last week. There was a Wentz versus Darnold game. Don't take any stock in that.
Two top, 6 or 7 picks?
2 top 3 picks. Wentz was number 2 in 2016, and Darnold was number 3 in 2018.
Right.
So,
damn, Darnold my number 3. I always forgot that. He feels like a number 6 or 7 guy, not a number 3 guy.
Now, the Jets traded up to get him, so they originally had the number 6 pick, which, by the way, became Quentin Nelson. No small feat.
And then Darnold ended up being in a trade that moved the Panthers up, right? I believe. Panthers down.
Yeah, the Panthers traded for him.
Yeah, right.
So This one's tough. San Francisco has a huge talent advantage, and I think that's. I know we have the McVay narratives that Shanahan owns him, but McVay did win the playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think
Crazy
San
game, by
Francisco,
the way.
yeah, great game. Stafford hit one of the safeties in the chest, and they dropped it, and that helps the Rams on their way to the Super Bowl.
I
I'm
remember
gonna
that.
lean. I'm taking San Francisco in this game. This is, I think, a good potential tease spot, uh, or an alternate spread, whatever. Um, San Francisco is just too talented. There's only two players on the LA defense that worry me. That's Kobe Turner and Aaron Donald, of course. And I think you're just going to have the middle of the field open the entire game. Brandon Ayuk had a wonderful season. I don't think he got enough credit. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, all those guys are going to be healthy. You get the sort of double bye situation here. Brock Purdy has been very good this season. You can chill out on the MVP talks, but he's been a very good quarterback. And defensively, I think the was it Steve Wilkes defense? I think San Francisco will have some answers for the Rams. It's going to be a tough one. This could be a higher scoring game. I think Puka's going to get his, Cooper Kupp's going to get his, Stafford's going to get his, but I would take San Francisco in that spot. And in the other matchup, Philly's just, I don't think Philly can beat Dallas at this point. I know Philly did beat Dallas in Philly the first time. That was a game Dallas stepped out of bounds on the 1 inch line, had a fumble inside the five, if I recall. Like that was one of the weird games that Dallas, if you play that game 10 times, I think Dallas wins 6 or 7 times. And then Dallas stomped them back at Dallas. Dallas is historically dominant at home, and I think they'll take care of business against Philly. CeeDee Lamb might go for 300 yards in that game. Like, totally serious. No one on Philly, no one perhaps in the entire NFC can guard CeeDee Lamb. Just Dak, just feed the machine. Just feed it. Just feed number 88. Boom, boom, boom. We're good. You don't need Tony Pollard. You don't need Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot and these guys. Just throw it to CeeDee Lamb. He's open. He was uh, was flirting with like receiver triple crown. I don't think he had quite I don't think he quite had the touchdowns he needed, but he had a monster season. So give me Dallas, San Francisco.
Yeah, I think that's very legitimate. I think that's probably the way the season is headed in most people's mind. So first of all, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. I think the only shot Tampa Bay has in this game is getting ahead early, getting in Purdy's head. We've seen a couple times this happen this season, but overall, not going to overthink this game. San Francisco's got probably the biggest talent advantage we'll see in a game this playoffs. Maybe Buffalo, Pittsburgh, but outside of that, the talent advantage is too much. So I do have Sanford winning that game. I do think Tampa's defense is really, really good, and if they got in Brock Purdy's head early, could make this a game. But overall, I see it happening similar to the Seahawks 49ers game last year, where maybe Tampa makes it close in the first half, and then San Francisco just completely destroys them in the second half. As far as the Dallas Lions games go, now this is going to be a controversial pick, but so we had the Detroit game a couple weeks ago, right? Everyone in Detroit is still angry about right now, probably still on their mind. And they have every right to be. I mean, that was, at the end of the day, Detroit won that game. That was, or at least they should have been up 1 with 25 seconds left.
Can we hold? The problem with that is Detroit got mega bailed on a call. Aiden Hutchinson tripped the Cowboys player on the final Cowboys reel drive, but they called it on Dallas. So instead of a first down, game over, whatever, they call it on Dallas, and Dallas has to work from a 1st and 25 situation. So yes, situationally, the Lions should have scored on the 2-point conversion, but they announced the wrong player, so Dallas was covering the wrong player. You can't just I don't think you okay, let me backtrack. Detroit got hosed, yes, but Dallas got hosed about 30 seconds earlier in game time, and I don't think you can just say, oh, Detroit obviously would have converted because Dallas was guarding a different player. They were guarding the player they thought was like declared eligible. So I think it's kind of a screwy situation, but I don't know. I don't really count that as a win or a loss for either Dallas or Detroit. That's just a game that like happened. It's kind of like the Cincinnati Buffalo game, the DeMar Hamlin game. Like that game just didn't count. Obviously, very different circumstances. But I don't consider that a game that like happened. I think both teams kind of like went just like a scrimmage. That was a scrimmage. I don't think that game counted. I think both teams got totally screwed. Both teams should have won. Both teams should have lost.
Okay. I actually, I don't remember that play. I didn't see the Hutchinson trip,
Yeah,
so
he stuck his leg way out to try to trip Pollard, and then they call it on the offensive line. It's like, what are we doing here?
okay. I mean, that's fair.
Mm.
So, but I do think Detroit's going to be very motivated going into this game, regardless. Dallas has, I guess it hasn't really been having their number, but like I mean, the last time they played in the playoffs, obviously Dallas won. I think everyone's going to be picking Dallas in this game. Uh, what's up?
Nick Saban announced his retirement.
What? Okay.
Oh my goodness!
Uh. Wow.
What? What?
Wow.
What? What?
That's crazy. Okay, wow, that just happened while we're on the show. Nick Saban has formally announced his retirement from Alabama. Wow. Well, I
That
guess we'll get through this bracket and then talk about.
okay?
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. So anyway, just to quickly, so I mean, you got the. Wow, that is crazy. Okay, so you got Baltimore. Screw it. Let's just talk about Nick Saban's retirement, man.
Yeah,
That's
is
crazy.
massive. I was saying the other day to my grandmother that she was asking, was Jim Harbaugh going to leave Michigan? And I said, only to the NFL, because there's no other job he would possibly want in college football. Alabama might be the one spot that changes my mind there. I still think he's either NFL or Michigan for life. But
who could take that job? Like that's such a big.
Man.
Wow, that is crazy,
Okay.
man. Just thinking about like
Galaxy Brain, Kirby Smart, Jimbo Fisher. They've been on Saban's staff before at Alabama.
I'm sure he'll have some say in it for sure.
Yeah. Man, that would be. I don't think you get Kirby because Kirby has helped Georgia to be that brand. Maybe not quite Alabama, but I think close enough. Oh man, because
that is wow. That's one of the most like biggest news to hit the football world.
I think that's even bigger than if like Belichick steps.
100%. I thought that's what you were gonna say when you had your mouth open, because people were saying there's a chance Belichick gets fired today. Or
we've had like that's been rumored, like he could leave, he could be traded, whatever.
No, nobody's been talking about Saban.
Right. This is
wow.
I don't know who you get to replace Saban. I think I know Alabama had a down year and had down stretch, and I'm doing air quotes if you're just listening.
I mean,
but they did make the playoff this year.
I mean, they choked. I mean, they had that game. They had it. It looked like it was Bama's.
Ooh, okay. This makes sense. Dan Lanning, he's the Oregon coach. He's expected to be a top candidate to replace Saban. That makes some sense.
Yeah.
He's been great at Oregon. This is not a spot I want to be in. Like, at least in the NFL, you're not, if you're the head coach, you're not the one picking the players. You're not recruiting anyone.
You have the GM
that's following Belichick, but that's probably an upgrade unless you get like the guy who I'm blanking on the guy who put
Bill
together
O'Brien?
the 08 Lions. If you get Bill O'Brien, okay, maybe a downgrade there. But
wow.
This is a tough spot because at least if you're following Belichick, then Belichick had some actually bad years.
Yeah.
And
no, it's impossible. You can't live up to Nick Saban.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Wow.
Remember when they lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't watching at that point. That was what, 08?
I think it was 07.
Yeah, I didn't start watching until 2010. The first year I started watching, I think they'd just be in
Texas,
right?
Yeah,
Texas.
Yeah, I don't know how you follow Saban. That's his down years, the 3 years you don't win the national championship. He went to the national championship game, lost to a historically dominant Georgia team, lost the next year because you had like a screwy LSU game. You lost just a weird year for Bama with Bryce Young, And then this year they made the college football playoff. They beat Georgia. They beat potentially the best team in the country. We can have that conversation. And then they blew the game against Michigan. But that is that's serious news.
Oh,
That
that's
alters the like state of college football as we move into
alters the
this
stage.
weird
I mean, dude, you think about like I'm from
stage.
the north, so like it's not like college football is obviously big, but
Mm-hmm.
in this, I mean, I'm sure as you know, being
Oh,
from
it's built
Georgia in the
different in the
South,
South.
yeah,
The SEC,
and
it just means more. I'm not even an
yeah,
SEC fan, but it just means more. That one, look out
like
for Missouri the next couple years, by the way.
they had a really good season, yeah. But man, Saban, like, I mean, has there been? I'm trying to think. Like, I'm sure. Has there been a more dominant football coach at like a major level than Nick Saban the last 15 years, 20 years?
Uh, See, I think at the college level, obviously you have more history there, and you could go with like Bear Bryant, also at Alabama. But I think in this modern age, I think football is at like a higher. I don't know how much of a hot take this is. I think as we like progress as society, football gets better and better. So generally speaking, and this can go to all sports, generally the level of competition now is higher than it's ever been. And
I agree.
Saban's had so much success nowadays. It's sort of like Belichick in the NFL, that he's had so much success at such a high level, and Alabama is always awesome. And this is a year they were fourth. Feels like a disappointment. They lost
Yeah.
twice. They lost on a last second field goal to Texas and a overtime game against the undefeated national champions.
Two of the top three teams in the country, by
Yeah,
the way.
and it feels like a down season. It feels like a down season, and they lost to two of the top three teams in the country. Whoop
No,
de
that
diggum a
is
doggone do. But
that is
I
unbelievable.
think Saban's either number one B with like Popovich and Saban, or Popovich and
Belichick,
Belichick.
yeah.
Like just
Like those are the three.
yeah,
At least
you
the last
win
25 years. Yeah.
so many championships, so much high level success in the most dominant conference year
At the
after
most
year
dominant
after
era.
year after year. And you're also the one picking your groceries, right? He's chef and going to pick the groceries. Popovich technically picks his groceries. Belichick also technically picks his groceries. But like say other coach Andy Reid, he has two Super Bowls now. He could win a third this year. We're going to get into that here in a minute, I guess. But
Ooh,
Andy Reid's not picking the players like Saban does, or
yeah.
Belichick does, or Popovich does. So I think he's in that, at least that S tier, that echelon of, you don't talk about the history of college football coaches without Nick Saban coming up in your first two or three names at bare
Yeah.
minimum.
I mean, it's crazy because like man, nothing felt like there's even been Belichick interviews that have felt a little bit like he's softening up a little bit, like he's like and Saban's always been more of a what's the word? Because I love Belichick, I don't want to use the wrong word here. But Saban's always been more of a warmer type of individual. Like he seems more friendly than Belichick, at least in the public eye. I think
Mm-hmm.
Belichick to his
Oh, it's
players.
because he has the Aflac commercials.
Yeah, probably.
That's why. If
but
Belichick had the Aflac commercials, because I don't know if you watched the NFL 100, but Belichick, the whole like the whole Patriots coach thing and the we're on to Cincinnati, like that is a facade. That's not the
oh
real
yeah.
Bill Belichick. The real Bill Belichick loves football more than I love oxygen. He was talking about players from the 1930s. He was breaking down film. That is peak football to me. Bill Belichick loves his football. So
Oh, 100%.
If Bill had Aflac commercials or a Reebok commercial, whatever, I think we would have a much better appreciation of Bill. But yeah, Saban's like on the Bill spectrum, but we see more of Saban because
Yeah.
college coaches have to be more of that forward facing thing, and Belichick could just be behind Brady, for all those years. Saban can't be behind Bryce Young or AJ McCarron or Jalen Hurts or Tua Tagovailoa, or pick your quarterback, pick your star defensive player. He can't hide behind that for years. He has to be the outward face of the most predominant team in North American sports at times.
Man, it's crazy because like I don't yeah, I'll be the first to admit I don't think there's ever been a game that Alabama's played in since I started watching football since I was 9. So the 2010-2011 season, my first full season watching football was when they lost to Cam Newton's Auburn Tigers,
The
who
comeback.
who lost to they lost to Florida
That was
State.
the
Yeah.
year they went undefeated.
Oh, right. They lost to Florida State 3 years. I'm sorry,
Yep.
my bad. Yeah, but that crazy Iron Bowl back and forth the whole way. I think Cam led him back from I think it was 17
24.
or 20,
I think it's
24,
24-0.
24-0. Crazy game. I remember watching that in my basement with my dad and brothers. Man, that was one of the best college football games to watch. Now, obviously, we got the Iron Bowl a few years later, but like I was gonna say, I don't think there's ever been a Alabama game that I've rooted for Alabama in all my years watching college football.
Mhm.
I've just never been able to root for them, but I've always had that respect for Saban as a coach. From what we see of him as a person, seems like a amazing guy, and obviously what he's done for the game, he can't really match that. So congrats to him on his retirement. It's going to change the whole football world, and that feels weird to say. It feels
That
weird to
is
say.
bizarre.
Yeah.
I will say, great time to get out, because you just had you're coming into this NIL deal, and he's getting really old,
Mm-hmm.
like older
What is he, like
side here.
70?
I think he's into his 70s,
I'll look that up
and
right now.
this is a good time to get out of the sport, because it's changing at the transfer portal, so you're not just recruiting high school players and then allocating like a week to
He's 72 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a good time. He can
And he
transition
won
into like a
7
TV role.
national titles, 6 with Alabama.
Just insane run of dominance, and insane run as a recruiter, insane run as a coach, as a motivator, as a mentor. The Saban tree is vast. That's one I think we'll be talking about for 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line of, oh yeah, this guy's connected to Nick Saban. Who's Nick Saban? Oh yeah, the guy that won 7 national championships in the modern era at Alabama, or 6 at Alabama, 1 at LSU. But yeah, that's I could not believe it when I saw that. I saw some guys in the group chat going nuts. And it's like, what? Saban of all people?
Yeah, man, that's a hard one to believe. Wow. Well, like I said, congrats to him on an incredible career. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy to see how that shakes up college football, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, back to your predictions.
So,
you're not off the hook, buddy. You're still Lions
I love
Cowboys.
it.
Make your pick.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I got the Lions.
Okay.
The Lions. I'm taking the Lions.
Okay. Okay. I see the vision.
I think this one feels riskier because when you're doing a bracket, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was similar to taking the Suns to go to the finals a few years ago. I took the Suns to beat the Bucks. I ended up, being wrong on who won that finals. But I did take the Suns to beat the Bucks before the playoffs started. Everyone was taking the Lakers in that first round series. I felt like if the Suns beat the Lakers in the first round, they would make it to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no guarantee they were going to beat the Lakers. Very good basketball team. And then obviously AD goes down, whatever. Suns win that series.
Mm-hmm.
This one feels similar because it's like Dallas has a very much easier seeming first round matchup for them than Detroit does.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I think if we get to this game, I think it's a pretty even matchup. We saw that a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it is in Dallas, which is tough, but I think this is a tough Detroit team. I think they're getting underrated. And I think they're going to give Dallas a lot of problems. I think they're, whether right or wrong, they are still very angry about that result a few weeks ago. Like you see it in sports all the time. People like to say that stuff doesn't matter. I mean, just
they took it personal.
Oh yeah, like you saw in basketball, the Giannis taking the ball from the Pacers a few weeks ago. They come back, Pacers beat the Bucks twice. The Pacers are not a better basketball team than the Bucks, but the Pacers were pissed off because the Bucks, took the ball from the rookie who just scored his first basket for Giannis, who's I'm sure had a million basketballs given to him after games.
To be fair, he did have 64. So
he did. He had an incredible game.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the Pacers did take that well personally.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately that played a factor in them winning these last two. Similar to why I think Detroit will win this game. I do think it's a pretty evenly matched game. I'm not saying that there's a talent level between the Bucks and Pacers that there is between the Cowboys and Lions. Mm-hmm. But ultimately the reason why I'm picking the Lions is in big part because I think they're angry. So
okay, fair enough.
I'm taking the Lions in that one. Did we go? Oh, we went through my other pick. So we got, to catch you guys up, I know that, if you're skipping around or whatever, we went on we got the news that freaking Nick Saban retired mid-show. What are we supposed to do here? But we have San Francisco. He has San Francisco, Dallas. I have San Francisco, Detroit, and
Mm-hmm.
he has Baltimore, KC.
Yep.
I have Baltimore, Cleveland. So,
Some
brother,
fun matchups.
your Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Who are you taking? And
Oh,
one thing
brother.
with Splash, I will say before it gets into this, one thing I will say is that Ryan Splash, whatever you want to call my guy over here, he does not like for me. A lot of times I go with heart over head. Like I'm like, man, like I want to see this happen. I think it can happen. I'm picking that. My man over here, he does not pick with bias, and this is a very easy one to be biased about. So I'm
Mm.
interested to see what you say. I genuinely have no idea.
So we haven't seen this game yet, for better or worse.
We have seen it a lot over the years.
A lot
Never
over
in
the
the
years,
playoffs.
yes. Reminder, Lamar Jackson has a winning streak over Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow doesn't. I guess Josh Allen technically does, but
I
Joe
mean, we're
Burrow
not
does
having
not.
Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson debates in 2024, are we?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe next year. Shout out to Jake Browning. Okay, so full transparency. When U Stadium did their
Shout out to you.
shout out to you. When U Stadium did their preseason picks, I'm a part of their group, and I picked Ravens over Saints for my Super Bowl because I couldn't see a path for Cincinnati or Buffalo. I didn't think one of them was going to win. I thought this was going to be a weird year, hence the Saints pick, and I thought the Saints were going to win the division,
That
and we're
Saints
going to
defense is nasty, to your
the
credit.
Saints good
Derek Carr
defense.
just sucked
Derek
most of the
Carr had
year.
been playing better of late,
He
but
was. I think if they got in the playoffs, it would have been a dangerous team.
yeah, I think they're a better team than Tampa. But my preseason pick was Ravens over Saints. I never picked the Ravens to win anything. I lost $150 because I thought the Bengals were going to have a better record than Baltimore. That's why I no longer have my big beard as well. But this is just an impossible game to choose because if I'm picking it today, if they were playing in the first round, I think I would pick Baltimore. But in this context, Kansas City has advanced past Miami and Buffalo, two teams I think are pretty good, two teams that have solid defenses. And I think Kansas City will have had to move the football to beat those teams, and they'll be looking better. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Isaiah
By the
Pacheco.
way, something I do want to say, not to interrupt you, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's funny how bad people are saying Mahomes' receiving core is when Rashee Rice is one of the best rookie receivers in football. That guy is a beast. I don't care what anybody says. That guy is a monster. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but it bothers me how people are, just saying this Corey is terrible. He still has Kelsey. Rashee Rice is great. Pacheco's had a really good season. I want to hear that. I want to hear these excuses if they go down. But anyway, keep going.
I don't know if it still checks out, but Rashee Rice led all pass catchers in yards after the catch this year, at least through week 17. I don't know if that's still true because the guy has a big week 18 or something, but Rice is terrific. He was in my all-rookie team. Not as good as Puka, but he's in that group with Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, etc. Tank Dell. So sorry, Tank Dell's injury there.
Yeah, that injury sucked.
That
would have that would have played into this game this week for sure too if he was healthy. So hope he has a speedy recovery. Next year that Texans team is gonna be nasty.
Absolutely. So the context here, Kansas City's advanced past two teams, including a win in Buffalo. Baltimore's exercised some of their playoff demons by beating the Browns. Can't believe that's a sentence I'm saying. Okay. I like to boil it down. Quarterback, coach. Andy Reid in a vacuum is better than John Harbaugh. Patrick Mahomes in a vacuum is better than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is playing at a super high level this year. I think he had a better year than Patrick Mahomes. Maybe not statistically, but
I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I agree with Mahomes over Lamar, but we can get into that later.
If you in a vacuum, I think Mahomes is better than Lamar. I think Mahomes should be number one on all your quarterback rankings. Lamar could be 2. Lamar could be 3. Lamar's in that top 3 or 5, right? Better than Justin Herbert. Just throwing that out there. Has always been the case. I don't know how people saw it differently, but anyways. I think Baltimore has the pieces to. I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it unless it's against Joe Burrow because there's some bananas, like there's something there, I guess. So I think Kansas City goes on this magical run to get stomped by the 49ers. Oh, I didn't mean to say that, but
Wow. Okay. Well,
yeah, I think
as
give me Chiefs 27, Ravens 24 in overtime,
all
and
right
Harrison Butker walks
now,
it off. Or Justin Tucker
that
misses a
would be
77-yard field goal because John Harbaugh's feeling himself that day.
wow. That would be a rough day for you. If me, I'd be very upset too.
I want to be there at that game if it happens. My heart would be in 10 million pieces.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I got Baltimore, Cleveland. This game is gonna be war. Like, there's nothing. I think 17-16 type of football game. There's gonna be moments where you think Cleveland's gonna win, moments where you think Baltimore is gonna win. Joe Flacco coming back to Baltimore. I don't think he'll be getting a video made for him on the
Not
big
in that game.
screens.
Maybe a different time, but if he's on like the split was a little ugly because he wasn't big on the at least outwardly wasn't big on the whole mentoring Lamar Jackson thing. So that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. But if he was on like the Rams, then I think he might gets a video because he did win a Super Bowl. But with Cleveland, heck no, not
Yeah.
happening. Not with Cleveland. Not in this circumstance.
Yeah, and this is a game where I have zero bias towards because I think, man, I love, like, it's hard to say I love a team that's not my team, but both these teams, like, if I like, not including my Patriots, obviously, like the teams that like I've wanted to see win throughout the season, like on a week to week basis. I usually want to see Baltimore win. I usually want to see Cleveland win. So I have zero bias in this game. I think both teams have dominant defenses. The Baltimore defense is really. I think the Baltimore defense at this moment is probably a little better than Cleveland's. They've been really dominant in recent weeks.
That's probably 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and
Or
I'm
with
just gonna
Kansas
say,
City's up there as well.
yeah, I'm just gonna say home field. Give me Baltimore 17-16 over Cleveland. Another crushing defeat in Cleveland sports history, but an incredible season. I think, man, for these two, I mean, Lamar Jackson, as Splash over here knows, is my favorite non-Brady quarterback ever. I'm a huge Lamar fan. And then with Cleveland, probably would be one of the best stories of football history if they ended up winning it all this year. In terms of just everyone getting injured and almost improving after the injuries. Something I can't ever remember seeing. So if this Cleveland team made it even to the AFC Championship, I think there's a movie made about them. I think it's a special season. But yeah, give me Baltimore. I think Baltimore ends that special Cleveland season. Lamar gets to his first Super Bowl, doubling his playoff win total prior to this.
I guess that would be tripling, right? Because you'd go from 1 to 3.
Well, I didn't say my Super Bowl pick yet.
No, well, you had him beating the.
It's 2 games because they have the first round bye.
You haven't you would go from 1 before
to 2
this year to 3 total.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Okay. My bad. Gotcha. I meant double.
Lost in translation.
Yeah,
We're good.
You're right. You're right. All right. So in the NFC we have the same home team, 2 different road teams, but who do you got winning? San Francisco or Dallas?
Not much to say here. San Francisco, they own Dallas. They're going to run the ball down Dallas's throat. With all due respect to legend Mozzie Smith, Dallas isn't going to stop the run. That's just not going to happen. Sorry. They're going to get cooked over the middle with Ayuk and Debo and whatnot. I think this is a game that I don't know what the spread would end up being. Probably like 5 or 6, which is telling you something when it's the second best team in the NFC. But I would take an alternate spread at -9.5, get some plus money in there. Wow. I don't think this is going to be much of a game. Maybe even all the way up to -13.5. So San Francisco.
How much money would you get on -13.5?
It depends on where the original line is.
If it was -5?
Yeah, if it was like -5, I think it would be around +200. Like with the Baltimore San Francisco game, I think Baltimore and Dallas would be equivalent teams, at least spread wise, against San Francisco. And I had a bet that either Baltimore wins or San Francisco wins by 2 touchdowns, and those were about the same at +200 or so. And I think the same thing applies here, but Dallas doesn't have much of a shot. I'd be cool with -9.5, -9.5, -13.5, -16.5. Like get a ladder going, like you might have for like CeeDee Lamb receiving yards. You might have 70, 80, 90, whatever. I think if you get a Niners ladder, that can go pretty high. Maybe beyond 20 gets a little sketchy, although the odds are pretty good on that. But I would be comfortable going all the way up to like minus 16.5. I think that could be smackdown potential. That could be a game you turn off at halftime. You go refill your nachos. You go out with the family. You tell your girlfriend, hey, we can go a little early today. Hopefully that's the late game, so I don't have to worry about missing work for it. Hopefully, actually, I'm in Baltimore for the AFC Championship game, and I don't have to worry about this game because I'm celebrating.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think San Francisco, Detroit, there's really not much to say here. As much as I'd love to see, Detroit is another team I find myself rooting for most weeks. I'd love to see a Detroit Cleveland or Detroit Baltimore Super Bowl. I just don't think they have much of a chance. Goff has been really solid all season, but at times against great defenses, that whatever pass streak he had of not throwing an interception definitely looks a little fluky when he plays against some great defenses. And he does get a little mistake prone. I really love what Detroit's done all season, but it's a no-brainer. San Francisco wins. Could be like a 25-point game, honestly. I think San Francisco is just a way better team. I don't see Detroit getting enough pressure on the quarterback to really take Purdy out of his element. And I think like 45-20 final, San Francisco wins, and it's never really a competitive game. So we have two different Super Bowls. I actually thought we were going to have the same Super Bowl, so I'm a little shocked here.
It was close. It's just, I know so much is going wrong for Kansas City this year, but you've been there, you've done that. You have a 2-time Super Bowl winning head coach, 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. Your Travis Kelce, I think, is going to be amped for these games. And Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, you have just studs on both sides of the ball. The offensive line is pretty good. And Baltimore has some flaws. We don't really notice them because they've been playing really well. But I think the corners can get got a little bit. Brandon Stevens has had a great year for Brandon Stevens standards. Marlon Humphrey, not quite the same he usually is. And I think the Chiefs might be the ironic team that can pressure outside of the numbers. And that's where Baltimore's been amazing. Inside the numbers, between the hashes, over the middle of the field. That's why they demolished San Francisco. They demolished Miami, because those offenses are built, kind of like Baltimore's, to attack the middle of the field, to attack teams that don't prioritize linebacker, don't prioritize safety. The problem is Baltimore had 2 Pro Bowl safeties. I think one of them deserved it, one of them didn't. And all pro, or linebackers, I mean. You have 2 guys that I think should be all pros, and Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton over the middle. You have another Pro Bowl adjacent player in Geno Stone. I don't know what Marcus Williams is doing nowadays. He was horrible against Pittsburgh, but I digress. The strength of the Baltimore defense has always been through the middle. And teams like Miami, teams like San Francisco, even like Detroit, they like to attack over the middle. They like to get those 10 to 19-yard plays that Lamar Jackson's so good at. That's why teams can't stop Lamar Jackson, because teams don't have the linebackers and safeties to do so. But Kansas City, I think, can get vertical outside against these corners. And if you get a catch, if MVS catches a deep ball, Kadarius Toney catches a deep ball, Rashee Rice catches a deep ball, whatever, that's a 60-yard play. That takes out a lot of the Ravens' funny stuff they do with the blitzing and the not blitzing, and what you do with Kyle Hamilton as the long arm of the law. That's what he's known as in Baltimore. But no, Kansas City, San Francisco, and frankly, I wouldn't be as excited for that one. Obviously, if it's Baltimore, San Francisco,
of the 2020 Super Bowl.
But obviously, if it's Baltimore, San Francisco, I'm excited for that one. But I think San Francisco's kind of
just a better team than Kansas City.
Is whiffs of the Warriors when they had Kevin Durant. It's just like not quite as fun when you look at your All-Pro team. I happened to make my All-Splash team earlier today, and it's like All-Pro receiver, All-Pro running back, All-Pro left tackle, All-Pro defensive end, All-Pro linebacker, All-Pro, just like, and it's not like a Ravens situation that Patrick Queen, it was on my 4th team. Okay, Patrick Queen is a good linebacker. Yeah, Roquan and Fred Warner on the first team. But it's like, okay, Patrick Queen isn't like Fred Warner, right? Yeah. And it just feels like the 49ers have superstars everywhere. And even in a potential game against the Chiefs where they don't have the best quarterback, where they might not have the best coach. And that's a big, big flag for San Francisco, that they have in general going to get better quarterback play, and in general going to have the better coach. Not against Kansas City, but I think there's just too much of a talent gap. Otherwise, I think they're that Bosa, Young, Hargrave, Armstead, Randy Gregory, they can wreak havoc on the edges. And I think it'll be similar to that Bucks Super Bowl against Kansas City that Mahomes is just under siege the entire game. So I think San Francisco wins that by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. So to be clear, Splash over here, he's got his pick is San Francisco over Kansas City. Now, Baltimore, San Francisco. Now, for those who follow me on Twitter or have talked to me, because I've been very clear about what my pick was before the season, I had Baltimore beating San Francisco. I had people calling me crazy for saying Lamar Jackson was going to get a ring. I had people call that's not happening. You're delusional. My whole theory was that, it's the 2011 Dallas Mavericks thing, right? Oh, Lamar, I like it.
Yeah.
But it's the whole 2011 Dallas Mavericks thing, right? Like, I feel like a team gets close to there enough. They go through their trials and tribulations. It's also the Villanova, they had so many failures before they finally won.
Hey, look at the Braves.
Yeah. Same thing with the Braves.
For context, I'm a Braves fan. And then I'll say this with the 2012 Ravens as well. The 2012 Ravens were incredibly mid. Mm-hmm. They were average offensively.
Up until those last few weeks, yeah.
Yeah, average offensively, average defensively.
That Ray Lewis announced the retirement.
Yeah, they probably should have lost to Denver, but sometimes the best team, like the best iteration of a team, right? Look at the Patriots. 2007 waxes the floor, to me, in my opinion, with every other Patriots team with Brady.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They were not the one that won the Super Bowl. They win 6 Super Bowls, and their best team didn't win one. What do we do?
Crazy.
How does that happen?
I think 2010 might have been their second best team, and they get losing the divisional round, which is insane. So going back to the game, if you guys watch my predictions for the NFL weeks, which I haven't done in a few weeks, I've been on vacation, so yes, but I did have the Ravens beating the 49ers on the road. That happened. Now, granted, 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. Shanahan is a genius. Harbaugh's a genius also. And come on.
That might be a stretch. I don't know if I would count him as a genius. Good coach, yes. Genius, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Anyway, great coach regardless. And man, I don't know. It just feels like there's something special around this Baltimore team. They're out to prove everybody wrong this year. San Francisco is a special team, but I think in general, the quality of play this year has been a little bit down.
Scoring's down again.
Yeah, I think it's made San Francisco look like this crazy dominant team. I don't think they're up there with some of the other crazy dominant teams we've seen in recent memory. They're a very good team, yes, but I don't think they're that much better than the other San Francisco teams we've seen, in recent memory. I don't know, man. This would be a great game. I don't think there's any way we get a game like 2 weeks ago where Baltimore just destroys them. I don't think that's a situation. But I want to say, what I want to see. I want it to be like a 4-point San Francisco lead, 2 minutes left. Lamar takes the team down the field, doing everything that people said he couldn't, out of the pocket, making plays with his arms.
To me, it has to be a rushing touchdown to end it.
And then a rushing touchdown to end it.
Last play of the game, the 2-point conversion situations. But it's last play of the game, Lamar rolling around, can't find anyone. And he dives over the pylon. That would be art to me.
Yes.
Or John Harbaugh goes for 2 in the win in the Super Bowl and
that
gets
would be insane.
That would be insane. Now, if you miss that, you think about it for the rest of your life. Now, but if you make it,
I mean, it's
you're essentially Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more of a 50-50 win-lose scenario than the Seahawks started at the 1-yard line. That still doesn't make sense to me to this day because there wasn't any real win scenario. The win scenario there wasn't any better than the win scenario if you just had Marshawn Lynch go middle. Right. Regardless, I love Pete Carroll for that. By the way, congrats to Pete Carroll on his retirement, or not retirement,
just
parting ways. Possibly still involved with the organization, so not his retirement, but definitely seeing 2 legends go today, but did have to put in that little jab there because that's still something crazy. I'll never forget that moment. But
oh my goodness,
yeah. But I think also, I think both of us have, had plenty of these arguments, whether it be on Twitter with people, whatever. These people who say the running quarterback can't win it all, right? And I think a Lamar
Can
Jackson
we put
Super
this to
Bowl.
bed, please?
I think
Jalen Hurts played out of his mind last year.
Mhm.
They didn't win, not because Jalen Hurts wasn't good enough. I think Hurts did lose the fumble in the second half, but he was nails outside of that. So if you're going to criticize him for one play, fine, whatever. But I think it's just a stupid
Tom
narrative.
Brady's 2018 Super Bowl for him fumbling at the end, right after throwing 500 yards. But either way, if Lamar wins the Super Bowl, it's not a conversation anymore. Is my point. I mean, like this changes the quarterback position forever. Officially, and I think the Ravens are your 2024 Super Bowl champions, or 2023, whatever you want to call it. Man, I'd be celebrating that I picked that before the season for years. I'd be telling everybody. I would not let.
This is the first year I've ever picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl before the season. Even when they were favorites, I didn't do it. When I was a kid, I didn't do it. I did pick them to go to the AFC title game in 2015, and they went 5-11. But
yeah,
they beat Pittsburgh twice. That's all that matters.
Yes, but I mean, the last time I picked a team, I'm sure I've probably picked the Patriots, right? Just because I probably picked the Patriots a bunch of years.
I picked the Chiefs last year.
But I mean, my big one was picking the first full year I watched football. I picked the Packers to win it all before those playoffs. Because I don't know, I was just big on Aaron Rodgers, and I was playing a lot of Madden at that time. I was like 10 or 9 maybe even, and I was playing a lot of Madden. I picked the Packers to win it all, and that's probably my greatest prediction to this day. 9 or 10-year-old me picking that. But
hey, I did pick Lamar to win MVP. I had a video, the last video you can see on U Stadium, if I remember correctly. It's Lamar will win MVP, and that's exactly what happened.
I love it.
What I expect to happen.
Yes,
although it is one of the weird years that I don't know if you feel the same way,
Lamar's winning MVP.
That you can be the most valuable player but not the best quarterback. I think other quarterbacks were better statistically, obviously. Maybe you take them for a game, but I don't think anyone influenced winning and losing more than.
I agree.
Like, this is like my Tyreek Hill over Justin Jefferson argument, that Tyreek Hill is more influential to football than Justin Jefferson is, more influential to his team's winning and losing. But Jefferson might be a better receiver. Hill is a better player.
Yeah, I don't know. Hill was honestly in my MVP conversation, but he's lost them some games with drops. I mean, obviously that game the other day, but that wasn't the first time. I mean, you ask Dolphins fans, they'll say 3 or 4 games they lost this year because of his drops.
He fumbled against Kansas City. That was a little weird. Forward progress gets called a lot there, but whatever.
There's been a lot of weird cases of forward progress not being called this year. And it's weird because then there's been some cases where a guy's still going forward. I was surprised they called Josh Allen down on that 4th down. I'm surprised that they called his forward progress stopping on that 4th down against the Dolphins. It's been weird. There's sometimes where they call forward progress, sometimes where they won't. I think in all sports in general, officiating's been a big problem in the past year, in basketball especially. I mean, I could have a whole podcast talking about the officiating problems in basketball.
I can't help you very much there, but I did see the Pacers Celtics one the other day. That as long as it screws the Celtics, I think it's the right call.
Jaylen Brown getting hit in the back of the head, no call.
I think that was a block. I'm cool with that one because I think he touched the ball. The other side.
You don't think the Porzingis was foul? You don't think that?
No.
Yeah, I don't agree. I didn't agree with either of the calls. Yeah, I guess the Jaylen Brown one makes a little more sense, I guess. It's the other guy.
I think he got the ball. Okay. He whacked him on the head. I agree with that. But if you get the ball first, it negates everything else. I don't know if I agree with that as a concept, but I think he got the ball, followed through, ball to head. Okay, yes, potentially a flagrant, I get it, but he got the ball. Now, the other side, that would have been a no call.
He was barely in his airspace. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, so that was our picks. I have the Ravens winning it all. My man Splash over here, he has the 49ers winning it all. Now, to end it off, there were 2 things I want to talk about with basketball. I did want to talk about, my favorite non-Cavalier I think the most exciting player in basketball. I think this is a complete tragedy for basketball right now. But John Morant out for the year, torn labrum, just
Mm-hmm.
came back, had a buzzer beater in his first game. Man, this was just devastating for basketball to me because I
Mm-hmm.
think even if the Grizzlies don't make the playoffs, just having the Grizzlies on TV, seeing John Morant. I mean, to me, John Morant is like it's like watching Russell Westbrook,
Mm-hmm.
in his prime. I'm not saying
Derrick
I don't think that.
Rose.
Yeah, Derrick Rose, exactly. And I'm not comparing them quality wise or anything. I think John Morant's up there, but I don't think he's as good as like prime Russell Westbrook or even MVP D Rose yet. But I do think he's an insane basketball player, and the stuff he does on a nightly basis is needed for basketball. And I just think it's very unfortunate for the game, man. You could see that he was really motivated to come back after the suspension. Which I didn't agree with. Whether you agree or disagree with that suspension, it's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
he's very essential to basketball, and I think it's devastating. That we're not going to see him back out there until October 2024.
Jeez.
Crazy.
Well, that's tough. That's one of
Yeah.
your top 15, top 20 players, like one of the like superstars in the league. Maybe a guy that um is kind of a bigger star than like a basketball star, if that makes sense. Like just a
Yeah.
more of a, not saying he's not a great player because he is a great player, but like a very marketable player, very like face of the franchise, face of in theory a good team when he's there, right? Maybe you take like say Devin Booker. Maybe you take Devin Booker over John Morant. John Morant's more of a star to me, or superstar than Devin Booker. Booker's a great player, of course,
Yeah.
but like
That's a very good conversation.
auras matter, right? John Morant has a pretty nice, pretty solid aura, and he's a
Yeah.
like face of the league type player. And it sucks with the whole Instagram live situation. I'm sure you talked about that previously.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
but now the injury is just like, okay, now you can just kind of punt on the Grizzlies. They were what 6-19 without him, and they were,
Yeah. They were
trending back
starting to win
in,
games.
trending back in. It's like, okay,
Marcus Smart's back too.
maybe you get a play in spot. Now it's just like, okay, you can mark them off. They're in the same bucket as, not quite as bad as Washington, San Antonio, Detroit, but they're in the
Yeah.
bucket
They're
of
not
you can
making the
just mark them
playoffs.
off.
Yeah. And last thing I wanted to end it with, man. Just wanted to talk about this Cavs season so far, man. As as you know, if you watched the show before, both big Cavs fans here. Um, you know, Obviously a disappointing end to last year, but I do love what I've seen from this team right now.
Mm-hmm.
With Garland and Mobley going out, they could have rolled over and died. They were 13-12 at the time. They've won what 8 of 11 since then. They are 21-15 right now. I think they're tied for that 4 through 7 spot. Only a 2.5 back of Philly for that third spot. 3.5 back of Milwaukee for the second spot. I gotta say, man, I'm loving where they're at. I love how Mitchell's really, I think, turned back into a team player since since these guys went out. And I think that honestly for Mitchell going forward, I would love to see him more in this role where it's he's still getting his, but he's also allowing other guys to get theirs because I think
Mm-hmm.
he is a great playmaker when it's designed to be that way. But I think Bickerstaff, who I'm not a big fan of, has not allowed him to play his game correctly for this team. Jarrett Allen's been a complete monster. There is something to be said for the fact that when Allen and Mobley are out there, I don't think it brings the best out of either of them offensively. The defense is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved what I've seen from guys like Craig Porter Jr., even like Max Drews doing all around. Levert Okoro, I think, has really developed into a really solid player. And I think it's been really big for everyone, man. Like the Craig Porter Jr. would have never seen minutes if these guys hadn't went out. And man, I don't know. It keeps you excited for the future as well as the current, seeing what they're doing now with these guys out. The fact that the depth is playing so well, and the bench was such a problem in that Knicks series last year too. So,
Right.
how are you feeling about this team? Where do you think they could go?
Yeah, they're kind of roping me back in. I think this sometimes is a case of, I mean, you obviously love Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen together, and you want those four players on the floor together. But sometimes the sum of the parts is worse than the whole, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this might be a case of when you have all four of them, they all four have egos, and you all four of them think of themselves as stars. I think that's justified. Um, and you want Mobley taking shots, you want Allen taking some shots, and Garland and Mitchell, and you want everyone involved. But sometimes maybe it's best you don't build the all-star team. It's you don't build the super team, and you get more of the you get the role type pieces that you get the third guy, the fourth guy, the fifth guy that aren't asking for shots, aren't going to take bad shots, and you get a situation that they're playing a lot better with Mitchell and with Allen, and three auxiliary piece or ancillary whatever, three other pieces instead of having two superstars, or maybe not superstars, two star level players with them,
Yeah,
right? So I think
Mitchell's
if
a
you
superstar. I think pretty.
yeah, I mean, you have Mobley is the superstar potential. Of course, we all love Mobley. He
Yeah.
was getting Tim Duncan comparisons at one point.
Yes.
Uh, I, I've kind of soured on that because of the Knicks series, but
Yeah.
I, I think in some cases having the two stars plus three good role players is better than four stars because there's one basketball, right? And
Hmm.
in this case, you have Mitchell and Allen, and Mitchell's ball dominant player, so you can let Mitchell do his, you can let Allen do his, you can combine them on pick and rolls. Allen can be a beast defensively and rebounding wise, and Mitchell can get his, right? But if you have all four of them on the floor, it's you know Garland needs to be in a rhythm, Mitchell needs to be in a rhythm, and you're stepping on toes.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for the Cavs to have this little run. Obviously, you want the four Avengers healthy, but I think for stretches, sometimes it's best if you're missing one or missing two. If you prefer it's not injury and you prefer it be like rest days and have like rotation, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think.
They're
I
kind
think.
of roping me back in.
Yeah. I think also now you see where they're at and what they can add into it to be an even better team. And I hope that they're looking at Garland and Mobley and saying, because people were trying to blame Mitchell before and saying, that they just can't win with him, and that's clearly not the case. I mean, Mitchell is a very, very, very good basketball player. It's just figuring out how they align the stars essentially to go together. I mean, you look at a team like the Celtics. I mean, I was listening to Gordon Hayward talk. He was talking about the 2018 or sorry 2019 2020 Celtics team that lost in five to the Bucks. And they
Mm-hmm.
had Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, even nice other players like Al Horford and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good team. And sorry, I think that was 18-19. Sorry, my bad. Regardless, he was saying that they all, they were all looking for that nice big contract. They're all, all want to take the last shot, all want to do that. I don't know if this is necessarily the same case with the Cavs team, but ultimately those all, you have your opinions on Kyrie. I've never seen Kyrie as a selfish player. I don't see any of those guys as selfish players, but at the end of the day, it is you have your way that you've played since you were young,
Mm-hmm.
and when you've been expected to be that superstar your whole life, it's hard to adjust. At the same time, if you look at the Celtics also in 21-22, right? They were a pretty average team until midway through the season. They figured out how to align these stars together, and they became the best team in basketball overnight. So
Right.
it's hard to say, what to do with these guys, but I do think if you ride it out long enough, they could figure out a rhythm, figure out everything, and ultimately I think this season will end more successful than last season. I think they have the shooting now. You have Strus, you have Georges Niang, you have even like Craig Porter Jr. could shoot the ball pretty well. I think Dean Wade's three has gotten a lot better than it was last year. Okoro could shoot the ball better. LeVert still got a really good three. Like they have shooting now. They didn't have shooting very much last year. They didn't have much of a bench going to last playoffs. I mean, even having Craig Porter instead of Ricky Rubio, which by the way, one of my favorite players ever was. I mean,
Mm-hmm. That's
early 2021 Ricky Rubio. I'm not gonna say one of my favorite players ever because it was too
too
small of a
brief.
sample size. But that him and Garland playing together was some of the most fun lineups I've seen as a Cavs fan.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats to him on his retirement, special career, especially overseas.
Mm-hmm. Great player.
Yeah. So as upsetting as that was, I'm also it was cool to look back on his career, man. One of the most fun players of his era in terms of like he played such an old school style, but he made it so fun that it was
Mm-hmm.
fun in this era. So, yeah, man. But Craig Porter Jr., instead of the Rick Rubio that we had last year, which unfortunately didn't have that same burst that he had, before the ACL, I think will be big for this Cavs team. So man, I'm excited. I think that they can really do something special this year. As always, go Cavs.
Sir, go Cavs.
And yeah, so I think that about wraps it up. But thank you so much, Splash, for coming on the show today. This brought me back to the old full court trap vibes, which I'll leave a link to those old episodes in the description below if you guys want to watch it. But yeah, it's always a great time. Love to have you back on here for like maybe March Madness, like when we did that a couple years ago. That's always fun to go over our picks. But
Yep.
thank you for coming on the show, man. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. Yeah, thank you for having me. You can follow me at Mr. Splashman19 on the Bird app. I do stuff for you Stadium still. And yeah.
Yeah, that's where we met, the U. So
Yes, sir.
love the U forever. Yes, you. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.